Hello everyone, welcome to Lukmaan IS. Today we are going to have the Hindu analysis of 29th July 2022. So first of all, we will try to find out the relevant articles for our examination and then we will discuss them in detail. So many articles on editorial page and op-ed page, they are relevant to our examination from mains perspective. First one, as yesterday I told you, there will be mains related articles on the Supreme Court judgment on Prevention of Money Laundering Act. So we will analyze, there is one editorial. So GS2 paper polity part, it is very important. Then is Environment Performance Index really faulty? There is one interview of experts on op-ed page. On every Friday, there will be interview with the experts on certain important topics, national and international topics. Some of them are relevant to our examination. So yes, this one is relevant, and also those who are having our ED lectures, following ED lectures, this Sunday itself we discuss this EPI, Environment Performance Index. What are the issues with this EPI? India was ranked 180 out of 180 countries, so last rank. So that's why it is making a lot of news, and we are expecting question in GS3 paper environment section. Then there is an article, what numbers do not reveal about tiger conservation. Why this article is written? 29th July. Today we are celebrating International Tiger Day or World Tiger Day. That's why this article is written. And this article is talking about how tiger conservation is important at present. What is the status? What are the challenges being faced for the tiger conservation in India? Yes, yesterday the revival package worth 1.64 lakh crore to BSNL company, the government's the most important let's say PSU in telecom sector, public sector undertaking. And this package, how it is going to work, the three important heads under which the reforms will be undertaken. So this is important from GS3 paper economy part. Specifically for prelims examination, although in complete newspaper there can be some small bits, but on Friday review supplement, on every Friday we have this supplement where the articles related to art and culture, literature, so they appear. So on front page there is one article talking about Kuchipudi dance, and the the dance exponent actually received the national award for best choreography in one of the movie for this showing Kuchipudi dance. Andhra Pradesh. Yes, so that's why it is in news. This is very important for our prelims examination. We will cover this basics of Kuchipudi dance. Okay, now let us go in detail. First one, analyzing Supreme Court verdict on Pmla. Although we will cover this topic in ED lectures further, this is important from mains perspective, also those having public administration optional subject. Yes, so yesterday Supreme Court had basically given the clean, we can say, go ahead to implement whatever the amendments that have been done to Pmla, and the Supreme Court has found that this is very important for whatever the money laundering activities that are going on in the country. To prevent all those activities, it is very important. And along with that, India is also member to some of the international conventions and the agreements which seek to prevent this money laundering activities. So to comply with that, those conventions and agreements, it is also important legislation. Let's understand and critically analyze all these arguments here given in this editorial. First of all, the judgment, see the article is basically critically analyzing this judgment. Critically analyzing means we should understand that to what extent this judgment is correct or incorrect. We have to decide that extent, and the editorial highlights that the Supreme Court has we can say underplayed the importance of fundamental rights many times breached because of this legislation or the provisions under this. So in this manner we have to discuss now. The judgment repeatedly invokes the international commitment behind the Parliament's enactment of law to curb money laundering, this PMLA. Now this international commitment is fine, Yes, we have to comply with all those international conventions, especially we can say that we are the member of OECD, and we can say as a member of G20 countries. Basically, we have agreed to make laws and implement anti-money laundering, especially we can say OECD norms. Okay, now if we talk about, let's say, experience suggests that money laundering in Indian context is linked to routine offences that are appended to the act as a schedule. So this PMLA has schedule of offences. So they are called as scheduled offences. Now ideally, yes, money laundering needs to be curbed, but what offences needs to be curbed here, they are covered in this schedule, should be the main offences like corruption, terrorism, evasion of taxes. Okay, so these are, we can say, main, or then we can say drug trafficking, illegal drug trafficking is there. Major, let's say, money laundering activities or offences, they needs to be covered here. However, in this schedule of PMLA, very small and petty offences are also mentioned, like for example, and that too in a vague language: fraud, forgery, or one of them is also related to, we can say, infringement of copyrights. This is very, small offences, and basically because of these offences the ED has got powers to harass also to some extent, we can say, the common people. Okay.
One thing, sir. If it doesn't included in forgery, sir, by the single forgery they can take the loans thousands of crores.
Yes, we can understand that, but for forgery and fraud we already have different laws.
But that is not been the effective in the.
No, that is fine, but this is specific, no, only for money laundering. These are financial frauds. Okay, they needs to be covered under separate legislations, because we, this like serious fraud institution we have, serious financial fraud authority, or we can say that works specifically for financial frauds. Okay, so we have specific agencies, but ED under this law, Prevention of Money Laundering Act, Enforcement Directorate has unbridged, we can say, or we can say very high amount of powers which are unchecked, lack of accountability, we can say. So that's why it is concerned. Now, Enforcement Directorate has been manifestly selective in opening money laundering probes, rendering any citizen vulnerable to search, seizure and arrest at whims of executive. And especially looking at the recent instances of ED probes into several, we can say, activists, or we can say opposition political party leaders, this actually taints the image of ED. This shows that there is no impartial implementation of law. Understood? So that's why it is again one of the major argument. And if it is selectively using the provisions, then there will be harassment of common people also. Okay. Then provision for forcing one summoned by ED to disclose and submit documents and then sign it under pain of prosecution. So simply we should understand that there is, forceful submission of or disclosure and submission of documents under this law. Then along with that, search and seizure operation provisions lack judicial oversight and are exclusively driven by ED officers. There is no sanction by the magistratal office for search. For example, in general civilian and criminal offences, there should be some search warrant, no? Right? So there is no such provision under this law.
So they, without any evidence, first they will arrest, and
yes.
submission of charge only they will display the.
Yes, so this is actually again we can say against the liberty, personal liberty. Supreme Court rejected the plea to treat ED officers who record statements as police officers. One should understand that whatever the statement recorded by police officers, it is not admissible in the court of law. Right? So whatever the police is recording, that is not admissible in the court of law as a proof. But this similar designation is not given to ED officers. This is basically submissible as a proof here. Okay, but this violates, we can say, natural justice principle, rule of law and natural justice principle, and thus protecting their evidentiary admissibility. So evidence collected by ED officers, they are admitted here. But this is not true for police officers.
SC has given this, so for the national security purpose, we are going to be giving the furthering orders to proceed at any stage.
No, that is fine. See, this is very serious offense, money laundering, and it affects the nation's financial stability, we can say. And in recent decade or last decade, several fraudsters they have done, we can say, like Nirav Modi is there, or even Vijay Mallya. So financially we need to be very careful now here onwards. Along with that, several activities in the country where it is resulting into funding to terrorism, extremist activities and the drug peddling, there is some kind of nexus here.
Recently 3 tons of drugs have been...
So there is nexus, and money laundering is major concern here. Right. So finally, one last argument can be, at a time when ED is selectively targeting regime opponents, the verdict is bound to remembered for its failure to protect personal liberty from executive access. Okay, so it is impacting the fundamental rights of the people, fundamental rights like Article 21, Article 20 of Indian Constitution, and personal liberty is protected by the Supreme Court up till now. But why the Supreme Court has taken this decision, has underplayed the importance of fundamental rights over all, we can say, aspects of this crime or national security. So to some extent there will be criticism of this judgment. Okay, so that's why critically analyze. If suppose the question is there in the examination, there will be critically analyze or critically examine, that will be the command here. Although specific topic of money laundering is also there in internal security part, GS3 paper. But from that aspect, we should be knowing the legal provisions specifically and its implementation, what are the challenges in implementation. Not from the law making perspective. When we discuss this, it is from law making perspective, no, polity perspective. In GS3 paper, if question is there, we should be talking about from internal security perspective. Okay, like effectiveness of implementation of law. What are the challenges in implementation of that law? What are the challenges in dealing with this money laundering activities? What is that nexus of money laundering and drug trafficking and human trafficking in general and terrorism? We should be knowing about this. This is GS3 paper. Okay. Next, is Environment Performance Index really faulty? Let me give you background here. Recently, this EPI 2022 was released by the researchers at Yale University. Okay, so this has created some uproar, especially the government of India was not happy here because India was ranked 180th out of 180 in this ranking. Last, okay, an Environment Performance Index. So that's why the questions have been raised on the methodology used by the researchers arriving at this index. Okay, so let us understand how these experts are giving view on different aspects here. First of all, what are the issues with methodology? Okay, the methodology used here has some issues. Issues related to, first, we should talk about normalization. Normalization in a sense that various indicators, they will be having various provisions or the data collected from different countries. Was that data normalized? Because see, when we talk about India, we have let's say dispersed amount of forest. Although the total area is considerable under forest cover, but it is dispersed. Okay, it is not concentrated in one area. If we compare this with Brazil, the Amazon rainforest, dense forest is concentrated in one area. So whether these two parameters, whether these two aspects are normalized in that index to arrive at a word, then whether, let's say, this methodology of extrapolation, whether it is on solid grounds, especially in terms of data, because this only considers last 10 years data. Now we can understand that developing and underdeveloped countries, they are still struggling in terms of amount of funds for the environment protection, in terms of their capacities. So of course, as compared to Western countries, their capacity will be less. But this was not considered. Rather, basically they had seen this data in objective manner, whether the country is able to achieve that target or not. That's all.
If they taken the data from the 11th century onwards, their original values will be added.
Yes, of course, the past contribution by the Western country is huge. That is not considered here.
Not considered.
Okay, so that methodology aspect is also we can say one of the concern, and then along with that one should also understand that okay, even if suppose there are subjective variations in different parameters, whether there is consensus among the experts on those parameters, this is also very important aspect. If we talk about the fourth point here, especially related to countries like India or other developing countries, we can say that just a moment. For example, forest. So there is increase in forest cover. There is increase in forest cover in India. The state of forest report that is released by Forest Survey of India every 2 years, it is showing that forest cover is increasing. But still, India's ranking is poor in terms of afforestation or improving the forest resource. So basically, what this methodology suggests, there is some kind of contravention. Okay, so it is not in align with actual what is happening.
Deliberately they are taking a mismatched data.
Yes, they have their own data. We can say that they have their own methodology, but this methodology has some kind of limitations. We should be able to highlight that. First thing. Then, is a rating right way to be measuring environmental progress? Okay, so this is also important question. Now suppose rating is given out of 10, and suppose most of the countries lie between 7 to 9. Okay, and some countries will be, let's say, though most of the countries are between 7 to 9, and if we talk about the 7 ranking, 7 score is there out of 10, so this will be suppose 180, and this 7.1 score is there suppose, and this will be 150. 0.1 difference is there, but huge difference in ranking. Whether it is able to reflect the exact, let's say, the progress made for environment protection? No. Whenever there is comparative ranking, the problem here is in terms of measuring environmental progress in an objective manner. This is problematic. Okay, although this EPI, which considers 40 such parameters, under different headings. So number of parameters consider is good thing. 40 parameters means it is inclusive index. But again we can say the weightage given to the parameters. Again this is problematic. Let me give you one aspect related to climate change. This is given weightage of 38% out of 3 parameters. 3 we can say headings which are used here. So climate change is given 38%. Now this is disproportionate weightage. Why? Because dealing with climate change is very difficult for developing and underdeveloped countries, especially when the funds and technology is not transferred to them by developed countries who have already contributed to this climate change in last 2 years, last 200 years. So this disproportionately impact their ranking, especially India, China. So China is not far, China is 150 ranking. So again problem with methodology, and it is not reflecting actual environment progress. Rather the countries like India are taking lot of measures to for the environment protection. Basically it is not having capacity, funds, specialization, technology also. And then we can talk about, let's say, the the requirements with the government, obligations with the government to provide standard of life to the people, and that's why it cannot prioritize always environment protection. It needs to focus on economic growth also. Understood? Yes. Then how Brazil ranked much higher than India despite deforestation in rainforest? This aspect, the experts are explaining this aspect here, that why Brazil is ranked higher because of the dense forest.
Mainly their atmosphere is very different compared to other countries.
No. The amount of forest in both countries may be equal, but the quality of forest is very important.
The quality of forest depends on the only atmosphere.
No, quality of forest is depending on how dense forest it is.
Temperature level, according to Indian temperature, the dense forest will not be more in the southern India, sir.
No. See, Brazil is also tropical country. Okay, it is not, equator passes through Brazil. It is Amazon, no, Amazon is equatorial rainforest. Okay, so it is tropical country, that is not the problem. Rather, we should understand that quality of forest is dense forest cover. The more dense forest cover, the more it is going to be good natural carbon sink. Now, because of deforestation, it is getting impacted, but still the amount of dense forest is huge compared to India. Whatever the forest we have in India, comparatively dense forest is very less in terms of area. Okay, so that's why its quality is very less, and that's why India's ranking is poor comparative to Brazil. Then India puts out state of forest report which shows our forest covers are increasing. How can we relate this to EPI report? So one should understand that although according to state of forest reports in India, the forest cover is increasing, but what type of forest cover is increasing and how it is increasing? It is increasing due to plantations and afforestation, especially in urban areas, or isolated plants are, let's say trees are planted. Because of that it is increasing, especially the private plantations. They are considered in the definition of forest cover in India. So basically these plantations, they are not quality forest cover. They are not quality forest cover, and it is isolated forest. Okay, isolated in a sense we can say dispersed in different parts. So that's why we can say that the quality forest cover to work as a carbon sink, that is problematic. Second aspect, we should understand that whatever the forest that we have in India, the people living in that forest or on the fringes of forest, they are dependent on the forest for the biomass, for fuel, right? So what they do, they will try to cut the branches of the trees for their biomass need, although they will not cut completely tree.
They will only cut the branches.
Yes, so that it will regrow further. Okay, but that shows the degraded forest. If we see the satellite data, it shows the degraded forest. That is also one concern. In India, we are still dependent for fuel purpose on biomass. Okay, so that concern you should be highlighting here. One solution we have seen grow in popularity is tree planting. Is this actually effective? This is what just now we talked about. Tree planting is fine, but it is not that effective, let's say, or alternative for dense forest. Tree planting in isolated manner, that is good thing. But if we talk about the quality of forest, dense forests needs to be protected. Okay, because dense forest, first thing we should understand that planting tree is basically manual activity, and whatever the variety of tree that we are using, we are choosing this, no? Like eucalyptus. If you plant eucalyptus everywhere, it is going to affect biodiversity. If you do not plant the trees which are suitable for that area, it is going to affect the biodiversity. Then how this, let's say, plantation of tree is going to be beneficial? This is problematic. That's why this plantation is problematic. That's why we need to protect the dense natural forest. Understood? Then India ranked 179 in the air quality component. How do we solve this? We have to, accept that although methodology is issue, see the question we have framed. While the methodology of EPI 2022 has issues, this is an opportunity for India to study where it stands on environment protection. We need to understand where we are progressing. Are we progressing in a right direction or in a right, we can say, pace, speed? That aspect is also important, especially air quality. We, all indices, not only this one, air quality indices also we perform very poor. Okay, one fact in ED lecture I had told you, I guess, what was that? 99% people living in urban areas in India, they inhale polluted air. This was highlighted by that Sustainable Development Goals 2022 report. Right? So this shows the poor air quality that we have. Right? We have to accept this. Now how we can solve this? The experts are giving their views here. So of course we need to understand that whatever the energy sources we are using, we need to shift towards
non-polluted resources.
renewables.
Non-polluted resources.
Yes, we need to shift toward renewables, we need to shift towards electric vehicles. Okay, solar, wind energy, then electric vehicles, because they are source for vehicular pollution is again one of the source, we can say. Then in terms of energy, air quality, one should also understand that urban forests play a very important role. Right? Dealing with land use change.
Corporation need to take action within 1 square kilometer, at least 2 to 3 parks they need to maintain in urban cities. Otherwise, we can't able to.
Yes. So urban forestry is very important, needs to be promoted. Land use change. Land use change in a sense, yes, of course, urbanization will happen, industrialization will happen, but that should happen in a responsible manner. That's why land use change, whatever the further urbanization is going to happen, that should happen in a sustainable manner. Whatever the practices we are adopting in urban areas, they should be environment friendly, including material that we are using. Okay, so all these aspects you should talk about in air quality, and whatever the lifestyle that we are adopting, that needs to be. But what we have observed, especially because of Ukraine war and the earlier pandemic, our path towards renewable energy transition has been obstructed. Rather, we have further increased our dependence on the coal. Okay, so this is actually problematic. Rather, it should be taken as opportunity to move towards all this. Fine? Okay. Now, moving on. What numbers do not reveal about tiger conservation? Okay, so yes, World Tiger Day we are celebrating today, and that's why this article is written. Now, good inputs are mentioned here. Although up till now there is no question asked in mains examination specifically for this tiger species or species conservation specifically in mains examination. There was one question related to M stripes so many years back. M stripes, this new technology was being used for tiger census. So that's why they asked, but later there is no question related to species conservation. There can be again question. So one of the data which suggests that IUCN assessment suggests that tiger numbers have increased by 40% since 2005. It is overall world data. If we talk about tiger census, the latest tiger census when we talk about 2018, okay, 2022, the tiger census is now going to happen. Its data will come in next year, next 2 years. 2018 data also suggests that compared to 2014 census, significant increase. Now we have around 2,500 tigers in the country. Okay, exact data you can remember later. Now, yes, what are the problems in conservation? Small and isolated population we have in India. Not any tiger reserve, largely most of the tiger reserve have less than 100 tigers in the country. And all these protected areas are isolated in a manner, there is no, let's say, corridors connecting all those tiger reserves. Okay, so that is problem, and they face high probability of extinction due to possibility of genetic drift. Now, what is this concept of genetic drift in environment or ecology? Genetic drift means when there is isolated population or small population, there will be very less scope for positive mutations. Evolutionary aspect is restricted, and there will be inbreeding. Okay, and because of that, what happens is the poor genes are highlighted, reflected. Strong genes, new genes which are very much adaptable to the external environment, they are not reflected. They are not formed through mutations. This is problem, and that's why the new species that are getting formed after generations, they are more vulnerable to the external environment.
So their health is not able to sustain for the
Yes.
environmental changes.
Yes, so that's why there is possibility of extinction. This concept is genetic drift. Now, individuals in small population are more likely to be related and leading to inbreeding. Inbreeding also let's say leads to problem of, we can say, more susceptibility to the diseases and the environmental stress. That's why there is more possibility that they will die because of inbreeding. Okay, now both examples are mentioned. In India, genetic drift is shown through by this pseudo melanistic or black tigers found in Simlipal Tiger Reserve of Odisha. This has demonstrated genetic effects of isolation. Okay, Simlipal Tiger Reserve. The black tigers are specifically found there. Okay. Then in Rajasthan, genome sequences from wild tigers reveal that individuals in Ranthambore Tiger Reserve show inbreeding. Okay, so this is going to impact the population level. Okay, so one should understand this. The research conducted by the writer of this article and the team, this shows that most tiger populations in India's tiger reserves smaller than 100, and they have highlighted that we need to protect the tiger corridors. Tiger corridors like elephant corridors we are protecting elephant corridors, very important for elephants movements from one reserve to other reserve, because they migrate, elephants migrate from one place to other place.
Minimum per day 50 kilometers.
Yes, they are faster in migration as compared to, although tiger remains in their own territory, but when there is more population they migrate. Okay, so protecting tiger corridors is very important, and basically because of infrastructure development, change in land use, we are doing habitat destruction and habitat fragmentation of these tigers. Habitat fragmentation leads to breaking the corridors. Especially the researchers are saying that use of land for agriculture is not problematic for movement of tigers, but problem is with other human infrastructure, roads, buildings,
Mainly railway tracks and highways.
railway constructions. Basically they are leading to, we can say, problems for movement of. So that's why as long as we manage the landscapes outside the tiger reserves, this one, to allow tiger movement and protect the prey and tigers inside the tiger reserves, tigers are sure to survive in landscapes such as central India. The problem is in central India only, no? Because in northeast or in the north India, in the Himalayan region, there is no problem. Largely it is forested area. So problem is with central India, development, mining and all this, let's say industries. So there we are experiencing more problem. Understood this? Now reviving BSNL in the competitive telecom market. So there is one article on text and context page, and also there is one editorial about this development. It is relevant to our economy section, telecommunication or communication, part of infrastructure we can say. Yes, the revival package would initiate measures on 3 fronts. Which are these 3 fronts? Infusing fresh capital for upgrading the state-owned operators' services. Okay, so what will be the infusion like this one? They will be given the spectrum at the cost of this amount via equity infusion. Okay, so capital infusion will be there to strengthen the services, strengthening its stress balance sheet. Okay, and third one, augmenting the fiber network by merging Bharat Broadband Nigam Limited and BSNL. This BBNL was responsible for providing broadband connectivity in backward areas, we can say, which did not have telecom services till recent times. Now it is merged with BSNL. It is going to be merged with BSNL. Okay, so this aspect. Then there was earlier package in 2019. It had proposed merger of MTNL, Mahanagar Telecom Nigam Limited. MTNL, it is very famous in Mumbai. This and BSNL, but due to this merger was delayed owing to financial reasons, including high debt of this MTNL. Okay, now you should be knowing that why government is infusing capital in BSNL. So yes, very important, because BSNL as government's telecommunication body, or we can say that PSU, it plays very important to create telecommunication network in rural India. When all these private companies were hesitant to invest in rural India, BSNL created its network in rural India at the start. Still it is having very strong network in rural India. Second thing, during the disaster, disaster management, rescue, relief, BSNL has a very good network. Its network is used by the NDRF and other agencies. So that's why it is very important. And still we can say whatever the, let's say,
Almost all government offices have been erected to BSNL.
fiber connectivity, Wi-Fi is fine, fiber connectivity is still very strong of BSNL. Okay, so because of all these aspects related to socio-economic development of backward regions, rural India, disaster management, this is recognized its role, the government is recognizing its role, and that's why it is providing this package. At present, BSNL is the PSU, but other important telecom companies, two important companies, we can say duopoly at present in private sector, Jio company and Airtel. Jio company and Airtel. As compared to these two, BSNL is very weak in terms of certain indicators like this ARPU. Okay, essential metric to assess the health of telecom service provider is ARPU, average revenue per user, and this is very weak compared to private sector. Okay, average revenue per user. BSNL's social sector duties prompt that all loss on capital asset is met from the internal accruals only, because it has this social sector duties, no, providing this internet to the backward regions, infrastructure development in that region. So that's why whatever the internal accruals are there from that only it tries to have some profit, although it is not profit making entity, it is loss making entity at present. Okay, then it is unable to promptly respond to technological innovations in the market like its private peers, because it is not having resources to invest in that. Okay, so in this manner we should understand how it affects their ability to provide services and compete with private players. Fine, so be aware about these developments. Now, from prelims perspective, Kuchipudi dance, it is one of the classical dance form of India, this Kuchipudi dance. In 17th century, Kuchipudi style of Yakshagana was conceived by Siddhendra Yogi, a talented Vaishnav poet and visionary who led the capacity to give concrete shape to some of his visions. Okay, so remember the name Siddhendra Yogi. Now, the story is like in one of the, let's say, on one day, he had dream about, let's say, Lord Krishna asking him to compose a dance drama based on myth of bringing Parijata flower to Satyabhama, the most beloved queen of Krishna. And he actually did that. Okay. In compliance with this command, Siddhendra Yogi composed Bhamakalapam. Okay, which is till now considered the piece, the resistance of the Kuchipudi repertoire. Then Siddhendra Yogi initiated young Brahmin boys of Kuchipudi village in Andhra Pradesh, from where the origin of this dance is there, to practice and perform his compositions, particularly Bhamakalapam. Then later on in 20th century, Lakshmi Narayan Shastri, who introduced many new elements including solo dancing and training of female dancers. Till that time only male dance and group dance or dance and drama. Now the solo dancing is unique kind of classical dance, and the dance drama is a unique kind separate now. Both are separate, but both are Kuchipudi dance. Then the new techniques were added, like dancing on the rim of brass plate with a pitcher full of water on the head was introduced. So you should be knowing this unique feature is of Kuchipudi dance, brass plate. The music used here is Carnatic music along with some instruments like Mridangam and Veena. Okay, so this is about Kuchipudi dance form. Basic we have taken from the CCRT website. If you want to have authentic knowledge about all this art and culture, dance forms and literature and everything, you can visit the CCRT website. The CCRT material that is available in market, that is also good thing. Now, what should be a simple question here? In art and culture or history, the questions are being formed like this. With reference to art and culture of India, Bhama Kalapam is refers to, or it refers to, it is related to. So it is related to Kuchipudi dance form. Okay, fine. Yes. So any question? Fine. Okay, let us stop then.
Welcome to Lukmaan IAS. Study General Studies with Lukmaan IAS for building comprehensive knowledge. GS paper 2 and 4 will be taken by S. Ansari and other papers will be covered by renowned faculties. Live classes are as effective as offline classes. The classes are highly interactive in nature. Your doubts and queries will be addressed and there will be dictation of notes. In the last 10 years, Lukmaan IAS has set up a niche in the field of UPSC guidance.